Hello there, beloved Ascension pioneers, and welcome to my last video in this year in 2013. I wanted to make one about something that is most important for us on our path as we're moving in our self-discovery, which is actually self-remembrance, because we don't just, all of a sudden discover ourselves, but we begin to remember about who we truly are already. I wanted to make this, like I said, about something most important, which for me are relationships. And they're not just about other people, they're also about the whole of creation, our relationships with every species, all the animals, all the kingdoms, everything in creation. So this will be an important emphasis in the next year, and you can join me because after the new year I will post kind of like my own 2014 opportunities for us, what the energy will bring to us. But of course, everything is our own creation from now on. We don't just hop on the bus and just things automatically happen. And just because there's some integrations happening doesn't mean that it just happens automatically. We need to do the work. We need to be the devotees of spirit and, or of our own oaths that we made and we came here to this planet. So because this is so important and it will be a continuous emphasis in the next year, relationships, I would like to make something about enlightened relationships now because everything is happening in the now. Everything always flows through awareness. If it doesn't come through awareness, it's ego rejection or projection or, just running away, hiding in a cave, whatever it is. It's just when there's true awareness behind everything that we do, we realize that it truly is about us. So from really getting deeper into what enlightened relationships are, I would like to share one of my recent articles, and I would like to go through them for those of you who don't read, but you watch videos, and to just really tune into what is so important on our path. Because you know that one of my biggest purposes here, it's not just to talk about how to be authentic and be the authentic soul. That's just one thing. But as you know, our authenticity will always change. From our soul awareness will also expand into new realms of experiences and integration and higher understanding. So it is also important to know that awareness plays a crucial role, and it will always continue to expand because we grow and we evolve. So I wanted to go through these things that I feel are really important and to kind of wrap up this year energetically and move on to a new cycle that we are actually headed into. So after the new year, because on tomorrow, on the day of the New Year's that people usually celebrate, I will create a reading that will be kind of like the energetic support and opportunities for us. But we are the conscious co-creators, don't forget. So we're the ones who need to do the work, who need to follow up with these alignments. So align ourselves. Nothing happens automatically. It's a lesson of spirit initiations and walking through them, like I always, talk about. So I would also like to know that just because a new year is here for us, a lot of people say Happy New Year and happy this and that, we're moving from the old. The thing is that there is no separation actually between old and new. It is both happening now. It's just like different outlines, different sets of awareness that we're actually choosing from. And it's like timelines, we're shifting timelines, and we've shifted a lot of timelines. And it's just like what we choose, and then we walk with that energy, and then we walk in that reality. So therefore we intentively create that energy flow, and we create that reality. So like I said in one of my previous writings, that when you create this reality of yours, no matter what it is, it begins with one relationship first, which is source. And it will always be the reality that is for you. For example, I moved out of the city. The city still exists, but they're no longer a part of my reality. And this is what I'm talking about. Awareness is how you live, how you consciously choosing a different octave of being. So I feel this is so important because the awareness about everything, and it continues to expand. And that's why when I look at the people who don't like to expand, who when they're presented with something like with a challenge, which is actually opportunity, or somebody saying something to them, they react instead of responding through awareness and thinking, wait a minute, maybe this is something that will expand me. So when I look at the egoic reactions, somebody might say to someone, this is not how it is for me, period. And somebody's like, oh my gosh, and they defend something what they're actually doing is they're suppressing the energy flow of the new. They're not allowing it. They're not allowing awareness to grow. And when that happens, the ego goes into into plan action, and it usually starts reacting. So when I'm talking about the new cycles of growth, of expansion, I want to say that in each now moment we have a choice to act differently. So for example, let's say that the different set of circumstances are always flowing about you, but they're all always creating some sort of similar situations, conditions, people. They're not the same person, for example, but there's like a continuous thread going through something energetically. And right now we have this great opportunity to transcend this, and we finally make this checkpoint on something that was really like a huge thing in our life. Like a huge cycle is being completed right now, and I'll talk about this further in my New Year's video about this year and the opportunities that it brings. But for now, I wish to expand on something that we need. We need this higher understanding before we move to a new level of co-creation. We need to understand what was happening on this current level. So when I talk about the now moment, this doesn't mean I'm fully in the now, so I ignore everything else. There's nothing. There's no challenges. Wait a minute, leave me alone. I'm in the now. Without awareness, there is no now at all. So the now moment that is really the now moment incorporates everything, and understanding what was, knowing what is, and allowing to see also and feel the opportunities of what can be, what I can co-create, what you can co-create, what we all can together. So these relationships and living them through enlightened state of awareness is something so important on our path. And it's just going to be a continuous topic, because this is how we expand when we're presented with a mirror. This is when we can expand the most. So one of the most important things here to understand is that the evaluation of what was is really, really important here. And it's just something that we can't cover up anymore. There's things coming up to surface, and as long as you still have ego reactions to it, like projecting it to others, somebody says, I see this in you, and they're like, no, it's your challenge, it's not mine. What you're doing is you're denying the opportunity of new guidance and new awareness coming to you. So when we do this, we're actually not allowing ourselves to see infinite possibilities. Sometimes maybe we don't like what we see, but it's still, on the long run, it gives us benefit. It gives us more expansion and growth. And on my path, I always have the eyes to see, to open up. Everything is just, it needs to be seen as it is, not as is it projected or how somebody would wish to be. So when I wrote about relationships, an enlightened relationship, first coming from ourself, our source self, I wanted to expose something that I feel really important, and this is this authenticity and trusting ourselves. So I'll go into reading some paragraphs and explaining what I meant there. And before I begin, I would also like to say that why is it so important that this relationship is always about our intimate relationship with Source, is because each of us will have a different experience with it. My experience when it begins on the intimate level will be different than yours. So sometimes people come to me and they ask me for advice, and I say to them, to a certain point, I can offer you guidance, and anybody can offer you guidance. There's not just people, there's things in nature, repetitive patterns, messages, there's everything. This is guidance, and I was explaining this week on my Facebook page about the difference between guidance and truth. Truth is an intimate source experience that you feel. It's an internal, it's non-tangible. It's a feeling of complete transcendence over everything and understanding the laws of everything that just is within the principle of oneness. Well, the guidance, even if it comes through spirit and awareness, it's always externalized. But the guidance is what guides us within truth. And it kind of, we need the merging of both. So through guidance, we're getting into the truth. But the truth is the part where it's an intimate source experience. So when people ask me, so how would I go about doing this? When I tell them about awareness. And this is the part where I can't help you. No one. Because I can't walk the path of your intimate source experience for you, and nobody can. We all can provide ourselves sometimes, answers or directions, but the answers are very limited time framed usually, because, our awareness shifts. So the answers that we will receive will shift as well. They're very static. They're very linear. But the truth is something completely different. The truth is eternal. It just is. And the truth is an inner knowing that somebody says, well, define this. You can't define it. How can you define truth? You either walk in it and you serve the truth or not. So how we are in relating to one another is very beneficial to a certain part of our journey, as how we live this, how we co-create, or how we trigger one another, how we show this. But as you will see through the article, that I actually talked about this, that in the new paradigm, we're actually going to shift from just triggering this to each other, you know, and there was a lot of karma being released for many individuals who needed to release that because it didn't serve them on this part of the journey anymore. But we're going to move from that to something more expanded and enlightened, to co-creation, which again, a lot of people were hoping this is going to, you know, begin to happen in a larger amount this year, but it didn't because they had so much of their own to release and so many patterns to surrender. And you can't surrender the pattern until you still defend it. It just doesn't go that way. You know, in my lifetime experiences, I've seen that there were some repetitive cycles that I had. For example, with a certain type of people. And with the end, when the time came for the relationship to end, because there was no more purpose in it, it served its purpose. The reaction from the other side, when I simply explained that I no longer wish to share my journey with them because that's how I felt, the reaction was never pleasant. It always felt like, you know, I'm taking a part of their life from them or something like that. And for me, I didn't understand how people can take things so personally because I never did. If somebody would tell me I no longer wish to see you or talk to you, I would say, okay, good. I would respect their decision, and I always have, because I understand this through purity and integrity. We need to respect that and our individuality and how we walk our journey. But then again, you know, when we do, and when we have a certain repetitive situation sometimes in our life with people who just don't want to give it up, you know, the ego part, and don't want to see through high understanding where things just are, you know, no labels, no definitions, they just are. And we can get this idea that it becomes a pattern on its own, like this always happens, you know, the reaction is always this way. But when we're ready, when we're done with that, when we move to a new level where this experience is no longer needed, this is transcended. So recently this happened for me in one of the relationships. It was a totally different response, and I was actually really happy because it showed me that the cycle is over, you know, it just happened. It doesn't happen anymore. It's, you know, things that don't happen anymore the same way. It means you've transcended them. It means you're ready for a new level of experience. There's something deep within you that you've integrated, and there's new awareness that was birthed from that. So in the topic of relationships and how we really are with each other, it's not just about authenticity. This is one part, but it's also about continuously being open to new awareness coming in, because we will never stop expanding. And whoever does that, and whoever says, stop this, I won't listen to that, it's not my part to play, I don't want to hear that, you know, sometimes you say to people, I'll give you one example. One example was when I shared in my recent video that I'm putting up an option for all those who had a Skype session with me before. Up until now, will have another option for this New Year's to win a free one, additional one. But it was only for those people who already had a session with me, and I clearly stated that. And there were so many people writing to me, well, not so many, but a few, that said, I want to be in the draw. And I was like, well, did you have a session with me? No. And oftentimes we don't listen. A lot of times we speak, but we don't really listen. And I've noticed this as a pattern within many people, that listening is directly related to neutral observation. For example, I say something, it appeals to somebody, like, wow, you know, it sounds appealing, but they'll make a projection of something they want to hear instead of what is in the now moment. Because if we would really listen, we would know. You know, it's not just a matter of being like, you know, communicating openly, but sometimes we just hear what we want to hear. And I really wanted to expose this because one clearest message for relationships will always be communication. Until our channels for communications are pure, utmost honest, really, when somebody talks, you need to listen to them, not just with your mind, but your whole heart. And when the heart listens, you know what they're talking about. The mind doesn't always know, you know? So I've noticed this, not just in this example, but during my entire life, that people don't always listen. They know how to talk, but they don't always listen. But that's the same as in giving and receiving. They're both one when you come to this level of awareness of oneness. And it's the same here. Within speaking, communicating, there's also listening. It's giving and receiving. It's the same energy. So communication is the key. And until we reach that threshold and we master those levels of awareness, how can we build bonds that are really truly rich with intimacy and mutual self-care and respect? We just can't. That's the whole thing, because we're going to continue to master the levels we haven't yet mastered, and so it goes. So, my beloveds, I would like to start off by reading a few of these examples. And I was writing this article when the moon was in Libra, and Libra is always about that harmony and relationships. And also, we have Mars up until the end of June next year, this year almost, soon. That is going to be in Libra, so it's going to be all about this balance. And the relationships always bring us this gift of awareness. They're divine triggers that are here for us, and they're always created for us, by us. There's no one else. A lot of times when something happens we don't like to hear, for example, somebody says to you something you don't want to hear, and you straightforward block it. It's, yeah, sometimes people are just mean. It doesn't have any message for you at all because they're just, but sometimes it does, and your heart will feel it. So it's not just a matter, people make this so simple. They say everything is a mirror because if somebody's mean to you, it means you're mean to them too. You don't understand. It's not like that. The law of attraction is so superficially understood by so many. It's not this way. But when you have a higher heart open and activated through the higher mind, which is wisdom as well, only then you can integrate the Trinity, which is love, wisdom, and power. So when you live in love, higher compassion, higher understanding, you'll have the ability to activate the higher mind, wisdom, and then move into the self-empowerment, which is power. Love, wisdom, power is our natural state of grace. It's who we are as a divine spark of God always within us. And relationships will always show us where maybe we still have patterns that kind of push us away from the natural state of grace. Okay. So a lot of us in the past, we were walking a path of rather trying to please others, or or defending ourselves how we are, or maybe we didn't fully embrace our path as it is, period, neutral. And then things happened the way they did, and we didn't understand. But there were mirrors for us showing us, why are we still doing that? We are who we are. We need to embrace the authenticity. But when the authenticity is embraced, like I said, it also needs to be about constant expansion of awareness because it never stops. So if you only say, I'm an authentic being, period, this is how I am now, and I don't want to, wish to hear anything else, then you will block that flow of something new coming in because you continue to be enlightened more and more. Enlightened means to live in the light. So I'll read this, what I wrote about here. So the purpose that the relationships continue to serve in the next year and beyond will be, of course, it will always be about triggering, but we can ask ourselves about true relationship harmony at this point now, when this is so emphasized and we're moving closer and closer to co-creating. Because co-creation, real divine co-creation, can only take place when all parties are authentic. Because if you're not going to be really co-creation. Maybe somebody will follow somebody else or vice versa. It's just not going to be, and not everybody will be satisfied or happy. And oneness has nothing to do with compromises anyway. So at this point, we can ask about what this really means for us, what relationship can mean for us really deeply, and then reflect upon it. Especially, it was during the last few days in this year. So as you know, I share everything through my own awareness and experiences because this is what I feel is most authentic, And I love sharing about communication and pure awareness, as you can see, because this is what we need if we want to move to the next level of our human experience. So this is coming through relations with others, and I would like to continue on this path because it's really important. And this doesn't always have to be an intimate relationship. Everybody now is seeking this twin flame, and I just watched a few videos from this person when I was doing my artwork, and I was just listening along. There's this beautiful truth share there, about this overly manipulated area of this seeking, for the beloved outside of you, and just validating things that are impure, that are not really valid for what that truly means, a divine relationship, and about the differences between a twin flame, human created drama, between a real divine relationship, which is based on source, the love of source, the love of oneness, the love of service, and being in divine service and integrity, and it's based on purity. And I really resonate with all of that. And this is, I feel, something so important. But the relationships, the divine relationship, can be with anyone, not just the intimate partner that you choose as your life partner currently, who will be at your level of awareness and conscious integration. But all relationships now need to move to a level to be divine relationships. And through this article, I will show you what, for me, through source that really means, because a lot of people talk about this, but they don't, when it's time to be in relationships, they don't know what that means, and they were still willing to give so much of themselves up to be, just to relate to somebody, just for somebody to understand them, and they're giving parts and tiny bits and pieces of themselves, which is really not what we're meant to do. If it's meant to something to be co-created with someone, it's gonna be either way. But if not, we're trying too hard. And this is what people do with these twin flame dramas and stories and scenarios. They're just pushing hard against something that is just not. And I really resonated with those videos because they shared the same truth that I share. And I was just laughing because the person said how many emails they received with this fake stories, and it just became a nonsense. And it truly, I feel, is something that we're moving away from the truth. We're moving away from the truth. And I feel that this new age has done a lot of that. And by that, I don't mean the new age of truth. I mean the new age of all that is not of that. All this, which is driving people away from themselves, which is their own intimate experience with source. And until we have that, we don't know purity. We don't know higher wisdom. We don't know higher understanding, And the person also talked a lot about these secrets and hiding and cheating in these relationships that people justify via the twin flame label. And it's just nonsense. It's not a divine relationship. It's not pure. And I fully agree, because a truly divine relationship really is based on integrity, spiritual love, devotion to service. Like I said, purity, all of that. This is what it is. So we're meant to move all of our relationship into that state. Not just that one person that we think it's so special. Even if it is our chosen one to spend our life with and walk in our purpose with, there's going to be many other special relationships with others, and not just people, also animals. I have them, so many. So I think this is really important, and especially because this will continue to be more thrown in our face to deal with for once and for all. Of course, for all those who do wish to walk in the truth. So as you know, like I said, my guidance comes through personal experience, and there's many alignments now that are helping us to see these things clearly. So this is what I was sharing about this. So when we expand, we can only expand through higher understanding of our current relationships, what our true desires about the way of relating, and what are divine principles of creation about true divine relations to one another. So with the assistance of personal relationships and the triggers for awareness that they bring us, we can focus on becoming more aware than if there were no such external mirrors. So like I said, relationships are always a mirror for us. They quickly reveal our best traits and our weakest sides as well. Like I said before, somebody maybe doesn't want to hear about their weakest side. So what they do is they quickly project it onto you. This is what people still do sometimes, instead of introverting it. They're serving us in so many ways, and on each level of awareness, they're serving a different purpose. That is why we have many different kinds of relationships and ways of relating to one another, from karmic, which is entangled, and co-creator relationships. So this is also from drama-based to drama-free. So before exploring our highest potential in relationships, we need to reveal the weakest of links in ourselves as well. Not everybody wants to see their shadow aspects, but if you don't do that, you're not benefiting on the long run. Maybe your ego says, no, it persists into this now moment. But in the long run, you're just prolonging yourselves, the path of what you could already be revealing to yourself now, So don't do that. It's not serving you. It's not serving your highest path here. So where was I? Yeah. Before exploring our highest potential in relationships, we need to reveal these links and face all of our internal shadows. Without fully illuminating ourselves with the light of the truth, we cannot become self-responsible, conscious co-creators. And illuminated truth means that which is coming through highest awareness. That is why many of us simply cannot walk along the same lines as other travelers of spirit, because our focus of awareness is elsewhere. On another level, that is also why we do resonate so strongly with other companions, those who feel really close to us, like-minded, like-hearted, similar in awareness somehow. As always, I would like to expand on the value of true relationship harmony and what it truly means For me, there is no authentic relationship if someone doesn't fully respect me for who I am, not what they project onto me through their own beliefs and expectations. So this is, of course, conditional love. And a lot of times people have infatuation. So this means that they actually put you on a pedestal over something like a trait or a gift or whatever you project to them. It's something that they have inside as well, but they maybe didn't develop it yet. They maybe didn't embody it yet. They didn't work on it and bringing it to the surface. So therefore they're projecting it to you in a very strong way to either be overly infatuation or putting you on a pedestal even. This is still conditional love because it's not neutral. It's not, you're not seeing the person for how they are in truth. I have oftentimes experienced this in my personal life as well. People place me on a false pedestal, and with this, they were not able to see the real me. And a lot of them still can't, because that means they're not seeing the real self. Individuals who are not in full awareness and integration of oneness within will often project their own expectations and challenges onto others, trying to convince themselves that it's all about others. Is this true? Not really. Oftentimes, they would do anything for that self-gratification and will twist even words around, trying to validate and defend themselves until at one point in awareness, they will be able to see how superficial this all was. And that it, like I said, in the long run, it doesn't really serve you and it doesn't birth real awareness. So until we are willing to work on ourselves and explore all of our inner realms, not just what we like about ourselves, but sometimes things that we keep repeating as not really the authentic self parts. Until then, we can never step into fully empowered and enlightened relationships with others through self-empowerment. Yes, we're all human beings, which means sometimes we all have certain things that are still within those patterns. But if we're willing to work with them and another person does as well, it's always going to flow. If not, it just won't. And that is why I said that sometimes our limited human mind, because of that human nature, will create something from the old. But as long as we continue to walk in awareness, we can hold a very loving relationship. On the other hand, when only one is willing to walk in the truth while the other one isn't, this will always cause friction, power struggles, and ego trips. Please don't think that an ego trip can only come disguised as something negative or dark. It can often come masked as something extremely positive and light, like superficial kindness, which means actually it's not kindness, it's pleasing others. Extreme infatuation or trying to please others or everyone while always wanting to be the superhero or rescuer of others. Yes, even those are ego trips, and until we recognize them with full awareness, they will only spread and we will remain unaware. We're not truly we're not here, to really please others, and we're not truly kind if we're doing it to please only ourselves. Kind of some people think they're only good if they please another, and that's not true. You don't have value from that. You have value just from being, from existing. We're not here to be this way, and to please others. We are here to be authentic, to be truthful, to devote it to truth. And there is no new relationship paradigm without this. We can never really please others anyway, and it is a mission destined to fail. And it's how it is. So we only need to walk in our own source, but how can we if we haven't had the deep, intimate experience of it anyway? Like I said before, I can maybe help to guide others a certain way, to help guide them within, and that's all I do. But at a certain point, I have to leave a person at the gateway, and they're the ones who need to cross through. So in our personal relationships, for example, if you're with a partner, and you feel like you've transcended some things and you're growing and they're not. And a lot of people say, I want them to change. I want them to see. I so desperately want them to see the truth. Even if you think that you're being so gorgeous here with this, you're really trying to help by others seeing the truth. And even if you are standing in your truth as well, you can't make others see it. That's still ego. You say, I love them, so I want them to see this. That's still conditional. You got to respect their soul journey and the way they are going to remember. And maybe not everybody's going to remember in this lifetime. Maybe it's just like a little missing. Maybe they need the experience of not remembering at this time. So this is another topic. So being in true relationship harmony requires complete self-dedication. So work of inner spirit integration within you. So even if it's in a shared communion and partnership and companionship with another, like I said, you're sharing your life with someone, it still always source flows through you first. We're always one only through our individualized aspect of the self. And there is no true negotiating or settling, compromising in true oneness. Guidance is authentic, and it comes through inner spirit guidance, and not clashing of wills. So when you feel I'm guided to do this, and somebody else doesn't feel the same way, and you impose onto them, it's really not guidance. It's your ego. It's your thoughts of the lower mind. The higher mind is wisdom, and wisdom is high understanding. And when you have that, you don't do that. That's the whole thing. It's like a paradox. So it's what I wanted to say here is that in true oneness and harmony, everybody needs to feel what they feel, and everybody's free to be whatever they feel to be in this moment, and not what another wants them to be or to become. Some people have expectations. Oh, you should become this. You feel potential in somebody, and that still doesn't justify. I know how this feels. It doesn't justify for you to push somebody to explore that potential. You can show them the way by doing that for you. That's the only way. So we are not here to enforce the becoming onto others. They need to walk their own becoming. If we project what others should learn, also, people sometimes say, you should learn this and you should learn that. We're just denying this lesson in our own self. So it's actually something you need for you. On the other hand, if we leave others alone, it doesn't mean we leave them like we banish them. It's not the same as lonely. So if we just leave them alone, that it means that we trust that they have all that it takes already. So we leave them at this. We know that needs to come through them, and trusting that they already have everything that they need within them, always, as a powerful being of source. We can choose to stay by their side, but we do not enforce and we do not interfere. We do not impose, and we surely do not manipulate them. There are many ways of manipulating others that are well hidden to the conscious mind as well. Sometimes we think the manipulation is always, we think we're manipulated through something dark. Again, even light can manipulate. Over light, not that neutral, balanced, divine light I'm talking about here. So many hidden parts as well. So therefore, we have to make it conscious with full self-honesty and spirit integrity. We need to learn to trust that everyone is perfectly guided for themselves and their unique soul journey. Whenever we try to decide upon the path of another and project our desires and wishes to them without their full consent, we're not coming from an open heart and higher wisdom, which is understanding and compassion. We simply need to know and trust that if something is meant to be, like I said, something's meant to be co-created or shared or expanded together, it will be. And it will be because both individuals are guided into the same thing. If this is not so, it simply is not meant to be. And we need to let go. A lot of people still don't know how to do that. This is why we can only work on our own spirit intentions without twisting initiations, well, intentions too, without twisting things around for others and what they should learn and do. I have a great example here. Let me share. One of my friends recently shared this with me. They actually one time were thinking about what I should learn, like, oh, Polona should learn this, she should know this. And they, because the person is rather expanded in their awareness and thinking, they immediately saw a vision of me pointing my finger up. I don't know how it was for them. Maybe I'm overreacting now. They're watching and I was like, that's not how I said it. That's not how I saw it. So whatever way, they saw me pointing the finger up the road, up the path. And I said, Ascension. And the person said to me at that moment, I knew that you're a powerful being. You have everything within you. You know exactly what you're doing. You're totally guided. And they just left that projection, So this is what we need. And I know because I am a master self. I'm only devoted and focused to that and my devotion to Ascension. So we need to be very aware with the words that we speak. You see how we speak to one another as well. It's important because what we speak, we literally create, Because so many times these words are just projections of our own mind, analysis, not our true aware self. The heart feels something, the mind will have its own interpretation of it. Not the same thing. That's why I always talk about the higher heart, the higher mind. Love and wisdom creating power. 3, it's a trinity. The aware self is always neutral. Therefore, it is not coerced and over-infatuated with things. It doesn't say, something sounds appealing to my mind. Oh, I guess this is the right thing for me. Mind does that a lot sometimes. So it sees things clearly, that part of us, the neutral observer. And all the realizations about another in our life are actually realizations about the self. There is no other way And once the human heart learns and masters this lesson and cycle, you can then move on to the next one. And we can do that, like next level of experience. So before this takes place, and this is what I'm sharing all of this, because we're moving in that space, as a deep inner integration and soul embodiment. So like I said, we don't just say, oh, I know this is so. Some people say, oh, easier said than done. Well, that's not true. What do you do to do it? Well, you do action steps. You just engage yourself. You devote yourself to it. That's it. You don't say, oh, it's so hard. Well, truly believe that? Well, then it's a belief. So until then, we cannot move a step further on our self-empowerment and relationship journey because, like I said, we will continue to master the lessons that we haven't yet. It's how it is on the ladder of spirit. You can't skip steps. Until then, we will remain enclosed in the space that we are still recreating for ourselves, if we still choose that old and old. As masters of the self, with a capital S, of course, we need to embody all levels of our spirit, love, wisdom, and power. We need to show great courage to see the truth, with a capital T, and be a devotee of this deep inner knowing. We then also need to be a way shower of this truth. Like I said, to become it is to show the way. Whenever another shows us disrespect and we allow it, it is a layer of our own self-mistrust coming to the surface through this mirror. When others don't treat us with utmost respect and integrity, we need to diligently show them this and speak our heart's truth without any fears. Sometimes, people say this is because you need it. Well, it's not always because they think you need it, but you need it to grow in your power. Maybe you just don't trust yourself enough. And sometimes you need those pushers to make you, embody this. So oftentimes we don't speak up due to the fear of not being heard or maybe properly understood. And you maybe twist words to think they're going to fit into somebody else's plan. Well, we're not meant to do that either. So, even sometimes not being loved anymore. Somebody won't love you if you don't please them in a certain way. This is like fear of not being loved as our authentic self. Or maybe sometimes not just sharing love in a gentle manner, but sometimes there's lessons in tough love as well. Tough love is like, this is it, period. Boundaries too. And people need to love that aspect of ourselves too, because they need to learn to love that aspect of themselves. So I've noticed that people who are not yet in their self-empowerment, they're only focusing on the love part. When they're going to show them that strength, they're going to be like, whoa, this is way too strong for me, because they haven't yet integrated that within them. So they fear that part. They fear their inner strength. So when somebody shows up really powerful, they're like, wow, there must be something negative, because I sure as hell don't recognize it. So this is really interesting. You see how the energy dynamics plays in relationships. So yeah, oftentimes that is why we don't speak up, due to this fear of not being heard or properly understood, or clearly and neutrally understood and loved. So why do we do that? Why would we even fear truly speaking up on our own behalf? If we don't like something, and if something doesn't resonate with our spirit integrity, we simply need to share this, as blunt as it is. This doesn't mean crass, just blunt. Blunt means neutral, like as it is. You don't try to cover it up, in ice cream and everything and marshmallows. You just twist it again. So without additional cover-up and masks, and like I always say, there's no truth behind the mask. The truth is a light that actually illuminates through the mask and reveals what is beneath it. So when we are, of course, ready to put all our masks aside anyway and to reveal a true self. This has a lot to do with healthy boundaries as well. Recently, I had to say this to someone in my life that, just because I'm out there so publicly with what I do, this doesn't mean that my intimate space, that my sacred space is there for everybody. This doesn't mean that I'm emotionally available to everybody. We need those, especially sometimes we put so much of our efforts and energy out. We need to respect that we have our place of stillness. And, sometimes you say to people, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to retreat. And they wouldn't listen, and they would still send you stuff and ask you things. And you say, you really, sometimes people, like I said, they don't want to hear what you're saying. And you don't need to defend yourself you just need to be assertive. That's all. Okay, this is really important in relationships as well. So my intimacy, like I said, is not for everybody, because I also have people who I really closely resonate with, and maybe some of the paths that I, even though our paths are all one, they're not always linear parallel to each other. Sometimes they're like diffused, different. And it's also for me, I feel my sacred space and intimacy is not for those who would abuse it and who would use my sharing and my offering the gift of that companionship or purity to use it against me. And, in that way, or abuse it through the lack of their own purity. I've been through that as well in my past life. And these old male dominant ways, what it means when the God doesn't respect the God, it's because he hasn't yet awakened the true God in him anyway. So we all need to know when somebody's true, and we need to feel them. And when somebody just wants to please us, that's another story. So it's not the words that others tell us. I always say this: listen with your heart. It is how we feel when we're around them. It is how we feel them through neutrality. And remember that the feeling knows, and not many maybe we will walk with and they will feel true to us and are like our true companions. But it's not about quantity, it's about quality. And it's just, we will feel those people. It will be a feeling deeply known to us, and they will make us feel, a certain way when we are just standing alongside them and sharing our journey. So with all of this, we will fully know who we will allow, deep into our sacred space, and maybe who we won't. And when somebody doesn't respect that sacred space and invites themselves in without being invited, and sometimes people do that as well, they're not truly reading our own energy signature of the soul. And they say, oh, I'm this and that to you, and you don't feel it. Because they're in the mind. They're really not feeling you through the heart. Because if they did feel you, they would know where you stand. Feeling is neutral. True feeling doesn't have to do anything with emotions. They would just know how we feel without the use of proper words in the end. Sometimes in true oneness, when we're really in awareness with other people, we don't need words. They just feel us. We feel one another. So this is very important. This is the next step. But like I said, we need to master this one. So, for example, somebody says, I was guided to do this and that, but it doesn't match you and your own guidance. It means that maybe a part of their guidance was, maybe their original intent might have been nice, but a part of it was coerced in ego and maybe some projections of their wishes, and it's not always neutral. So, yes, sometimes people use that as an excuse, because divine guidance does not come through imposing, our will onto the will of others. It serves all. So this is the next level of relationships, and it's what is absolutely needed for the shift into the new, the capital N. So until everybody makes the shift, we still need a good dose of discernment, neutral, healthy boundaries sometimes, while always trusting our own intuition first. So something feels off, it's just how it is, period. It's not judgment, it's discernment. And it usually means if something doesn't feel right, it's just not for us. Maybe not at this moment, maybe not at all. It's just what it is. Don't try to analyze why you feel that way. When you're trying to validate why you feel a certain way, you're already moving away from your heart into the mind. So when you say, I feel this way, period, it's enough, okay? So if we don't always need to use logic or reason or even getting to know somebody. Sometimes people say, oh, you need to get to know me first. And you don't need to. When you're in awareness, you just feel things. And simply feeling others through awareness is enough. So sometimes also try to feel what others are saying to you by truly listening. That's what I exposed in the beginning, listening. A lot of the messages we don't receive because we don't listen, and a lot of the red flags and symptoms and everything signals were already there in the beginning. The first moment maybe you saw somebody or how they acted or showing their patterns and where they are in awareness, but you didn't listen. The mind got engaged too much. So this way we could do only through remaining neutral, of course. So the first step required for this is absolute self-trust and self-respect. If we don't have full respect for ourselves and our own choices, our sovereign reality, there will always be somebody who will cross those boundaries, of course, because there is a mirror. So there will always be this, like this something, like this nagging thing or sensation, or so they were kind of stomp on our personal boundaries and choices or whatever, because we still allow it. And yes, this is because we allow them to, so we don't need to blame anybody. We rather walk in our self-mastery instead. So claim those self-responsibilities, deal with the old limiting patterns, and sweep under your own doorway. Like I said, don't project. You should learn this. You should learn this. This is your lesson. Why are you trying to say this to others anyway? It's not your business. So you can For example, if you notice something like a pattern, you can imply it's something, but don't say this is your lesson. You just say maybe la la la, try to show that's it. That's what I do. And if people are like defending their patterns, I just don't go into it anymore. Just leave it. I let it be. Period. You don't need to get into the drama aspect of things. It's unnecessary. So this is how we actually deal with our own self first, and we're always coming from our own soul first. So this way we will know who we're really ready to let go through that doorway of ourself and into our personal intimacy, because we have truly gotten to know our own self. And if we're still giving our power away to someone and their ideas or visions instead of our heart's desires and dreams, remember that this only shows us that we do not fully trust in our own dreams and our own vision. So it is never about that other certain person, like they imposed this onto me, I had no choice. Well, yes, you did. Of course you did. It's always about our own lesson. A lot of us know exactly what, we're very powerful beings. We know exactly what we want in relationships. And maybe sometimes somebody came in our life who tried to coerce us. Maybe you're wrong about what you want. Have you ever tried this or that? And we're like, why? Why would they do that? Of course, we need the trigger to be stronger and stronger. Because if our faith is not yet fully developed in this body, we choose on a soul level to have these triggers to kind of show us how strong we are in our knowing our purpose and knowing our desires. And we know this. A lot of us know. We know what we want. We know that our divine relationships need to be based on purity and integrity and divine service. So this is the next step for all ascending souls, I feel, and I know. Because when all of our hearts are pure and beating in harmony, we no longer play a role of triggering each other that way, which I was describing in the beginning and throughout this whole article. And we're not like this reflection in the mirror, and this reflection will actually change then. From there on, we will actually serve on another level and in a whole new way. And there's only love and support in our uniqueness here. So we're going to be real companions. We realize that true oneness has nothing to do with compromises, because if something doesn't work for both and all parties involved, it's just simply not for the highest good, period. There's no excuses needed here, because you have to know what's in the highest support of your path. It's also in the highest support of another's path and all of the paths, because that's the principle of oneness. And like I said, no need to impose your will onto anybody else against the will of someone else, because this is imposing against the will of one. The divine will that flows through so many awakening hearts who just want to be, capital B, and live in personal freedom of being. So from here on, we are only focused to serve together through pure awareness. And like I said, so a new year awaits us, and this grand focus on relationships will keep revealing more and more to us, and it's going to show us what's right in front of us. And we're going to need to be very diligent to it, very attentive to it, not just say, I'm going to push it under the covers for a while and, just going to deal with it later. It doesn't come in handy this way anymore. These are the years of truth. That's what Aquarius is. It's the air energy. It's not the water, actually. It's the air energy. It's bringing new ways of illumined truth and the frequency of our real telepathic communication through an open heart. So we need to step into something that is really appropriate for us as light, divine human beings on this level, and true for this level of awareness and soul embodiment. And of course, this will always be depending where we are on our own journey and where we wish to go, how devoted we are naturally. And people who will have divine relationships are those who are actually connecting to their own divine spark. There is no other way. It's not a given thing. It's what you create. It's what you become. So this will test us, and it will test our boundaries too, these challenges. But only through these inner initiations we're actually going to grow stronger in who we are and our personal freedom of being and in oneness of all. So I personally really wish for us to create only the highest awareness relationships in the new, which is the now, of course. There's no excuses, sometime, Today it's different, tomorrow's New Year, so it's going to change. It doesn't go that way. Anyway, my beloveds, this is something I really wanted to also expand in the video, not just in my article, because I feel it is so important. Usually I only do that when it's something really strongly urging me. And although I said that I won't make any videos, because I'm still on my holiday break, I was really urged and guided to do this one. So also remember, all of you who still live in those false stories of romance, of twin flames that are your own interpretation of it, not the reality of truth of creation. And if you haven't awakened yet to that level of self-trust and integrity and love of source and devotion to your purpose and really committing to being with that divine partner who is your equal, your energetic equal, your awareness equal, and if you keep making settlements and giving yourself excuses, this is how it is because you label this relationship, therefore you can justify it with that label. It doesn't go that way. And really listen, because a lot of times I receive emails from people who actually watching my videos, and I already shared all of this, what they asked me in the video. And you see how powerful the mind is. I can share something and somebody says to me, you said this. And I'm like, when did I ever say this? I didn't. It's how you understood it. You see, we really need to step into self-source focused and guided relationships. Everything needs to flow through our source first and then spread outwards and then co-create something. There is no other way. If you think your happiness or fulfillment will come from the outside, you're really setting on a long journey that, like I said, it has no true value. True value is always source. It's always that deep, intimate connection with the divine. And like I said, we will each experience it differently and uniquely, and that's the beauty of it. And relationships will be kind of like that marshmallow on the top if we know how to tend to them properly with full awareness, because they will reveal to us beautiful things, not just that we get to, for me, true enlightened relationships are not just about, this is how I experience source. And up until now, it's like people not understanding, sometimes still imposing, not getting, because they haven't yet fully integrated their own self, their own place in this world, their own purpose. So they kind of, create this diversion and distraction with the external and, focus on that one special person who will understand them forever and nobody else. So that's like set to fail as well. But for me, true relationships, enlightened relationships are about, okay, this is how I experience source. Wow, but I also get to see and witness the beauty, how somebody else is flourishing into source on their own. And then we look into that and we see the diversity in creation and the beauty and continuing to expand with awareness. So that's what it is for me. I'm wishing you so much beauty in this new year. Don't forget, it is all now. So happy now year. Don't forget to expand in your beautiful selves and grow your wings to be set to fly to new ventures and new grounds. Before I finish, I would just like to mention a bit about something that I'm wearing today, which you haven't noticed. This is my Galactic Princess tiara. This is actually more like a crown. I shared a story on Facebook today on how these tiaras and crowns actually were made into being, how it was all a divine coincidence. As you know, there is no such thing. And how I was just guided to do that. And I already created 5 of them in less than 1 month. Can you imagine? I began on the 12th of 12, I remember. And this is where I was actually wearing my first one. So it was this beautiful process. I was just so guided into it. And yesterday I wanted to do one that's more like a crown. And this is what came out. And it's just, when I do them, I don't think, my hands just channel through what needs to come through. And as you can see, it's like a crown. It has these, it's quartz. And it has like a pillar of 7, and it has lots of, the energy of 7 is all embedded into it. I do it numerologically, intuitively, sourced from my star wisdom and origin. And I do matching earrings as well. And really from now on, I'll begin to, because now I was more guided to create. Now I'm going to create a tool, how to share that, what I create, which is going to be in my blog and in other creations. But this is just something I was so strongly guided now, because it kept coming, guidance, what to create, how to perceive, and I just needed to follow it, because what's else, if you don't. So I created some other ones I could show you. This is, so like I said, this one is the Galactic Princess. They always have these like tiny, you can put them in the hair. They're just fit perfectly, because I've noticed that previous tiaras which I had, they're like too heavy. The metal ones that I bought, they're either too heavy, you can't wear them, your head begins to hurt, or it's just, they're not meant to fit your head. So this one's really heavy. This one is from Galadriel, from Lord of the Rings, actually from Hobbit. And I have a few other ones, but I just felt when I had them that something's missing. And it's actually a step on my journey to start creating art from my heart. And when I put these on, it's about the feeling. It's not how it looks. Well, it's also a bit how it looks. But when I put it on, I get instant tingles. And I've had those with the other ones ever. When I do this, it's just such love. I put such love into them. I put the love of my home, of beauty, of divine beauty. And when I put them on, it's like, oh, so simple. Nothing. No head pressure. You can wear them all day. Well, not when you're sleeping. And they're just so beautiful. And it's just art. I have no purpose with them. I have no agenda. I just create. That's all, because we're the closest to source when we create divine beauty. So this one is like this. This one's really beautiful. It has earrings as well. You can see like that. It's like tiny ears. So cute, like elven ears. And as you know, I made this one. This was the first one that I made, and it's like magenta. They all, like I said, they all have like a tiny comb. And it depends, you know. Depends on the energy that you wish to. I didn't think I put it on straight, but anyway. This is something that I was doing these holidays, and something that I'll kind of continue to do. Like I said, agenda-free, just based on my heart. And when you wear this one, I can explain. But the moment I first put it on, I felt like, you know, it's like the instant knowing came, Galactic Princess. Oh, wow. Yeah, it is, because these are more elven, you know, these are more elven design. And this is cosmic. This is like space warrior, you know, like a galactic. First word was Galactic Princess. So yeah, for all those of you who are interested in that and guided to do your own creations, whatever they are. So thank you for tuning in. Be sure to check the video that I will do and the reading, which I'll post on my Facebook page for the New Year's, for the energies. I'm still guided to have that retreat this week. Still not fully out there yet. But I will do that video. I'll do on the New Year's Eve, do some writing about what comes through, and then I'll share it. So take care, my beloved companions. I love you all so much. You're so wonderful. And thank you for holding through this long video. But you can watch it in pieces and bits, whatever it is. It's not really important. Maybe just a part that needs to be heard or not. It just really felt to come through the heart. And this is what we're going to focus now. We're not alone. Even if our lives have felt like we walk this journey alone in many ways, we don't, because I'm alone in many ways as a person. You know, I don't have a lot of beings who would resonate with my level of awareness and understanding and share in this space. But I feel this is exactly what was needed for me, and this is my path, and I came to fully embrace it. That was a pop for the New Year's. And the more I embrace it, the more it flows. But we also have to be careful not to create patterns through it, you know, like, oh, I was alone until my life since then and this and that way. So that means I'm always this way. We create this pattern, belief. We program ourselves. We gotta let life show us the way. Maybe a certain part of the life, we needed that. Maybe things are gonna change them. We feel in our heart what we want. Maybe all of a sudden we feel, wow, I want this divine partnership. I do. So what do you do? Well, you first become your own divine partner. You don't seek outside of you for that special twin flame, because you split, you know, in this creation, and you now come together, and your only way to be whole is with that person. With that one person, you search all the world for that one person. It doesn't go that way. It's again mission set to failure. It's never been that way. It's never been two halves missing each other and not being whole. There's always sovereign wholes. You create your own soul separation, your own soul fragmentation, because of these patterns, because of this way of learning through sometimes cycles of negativity, of forgetting who you are as a being of source, and that's it. But then you've got to transcend them. And at a certain point of your own expansion and creation, this will come to pass for you. So, my beloveds, if this is it, maybe you're going to be one of those people who will, if you feel that, who will walk that path of becoming your divine partner in all of purity. No projection, no labels, nothing, just pure source connection, and then you will share it with somebody who resonates with the same level in awareness. So I hope that this made sense, that you found something for you in this video. If you feel guided to share, do. I don't mind. Thank you so much. Happy Now Year. Bye-bye.